News.
As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A 29-year-old Logan man has confessed to sharing child pornography over the internet. Jacob Rudd was originally arrested in May and booked temporarily into the Cache County Jail. Rudd participated in a virtual hearing in First District Court Monday afternoon. He accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to one count of sexual exploitation of a minor, a second-degree felony. Defense attorney Dennis Powlick said as part of the deal, prosecutors agreed to drop a second charge against the defendant. Last year, Logan City police officers received a cyber tip describing how Rudd was sharing child pornography over a popular messaging app. The tip was submitted by Snapchat, describing two files that were uploaded from a user account and shared to others. The files contained two females between the ages of 8 to 12 years old in various stages of undress. Officers tracked the Snapchat user account to a phone number registered to Rudd. They also traced an IP address that was used to upload the files to the suspect's residence. Investigators questioned Rudd, who admitted to creating the Snapchat account. He explained how he was a member of several messaging groups which exchanged and shared pornography. He stated that he would mass download files from a different messaging app and share them to Snapchat. During Monday's court appearance, Judge Brandon Maynard accepted Rudd's plea deal after verifying the defendant wished to waive his rights to a fair trial. He then scheduled sentencing for December 13th. Rudd spoke only briefly, telling the court he was guilty. He could be sentenced to up to 15 years in prison. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the mid-30s. Partly cloudy, then clearing on Wednesday, mid-50s for the high. Partly cloudy around 60 on Thursday. It's been to 55. It's 53 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. Guests are probably coming for the holidays, so be ready. With a queen-size therapeutic mattress, only $399. U&I Furniture is also chair heaven. All kinds of chairs, accent chairs, lift chairs, and of course, recliners. Always a better buy at U&I, 28 West, 1st North, downtown Logan.
Have you pulled your winter quilts and blankets out of storage? Do they smell stale and look flat? And is your hunting gear, sleeping bags, and coats dingy as well? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen everything up with their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, the biggest around, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning, with free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. They're on the corner of 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City at 1st East and 7th South.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. USU Associate Professor Michael Pate is the president of the International Society for Agricultural Health and Safety, or ISASH. He said ISASH doesn't exist to tell farmers how to do their jobs.
Nobody knows better how to get things done than the farmer and themselves. And what we try to see our role is to be able to empower those that will be able to provide resources and help in any way, whether it be mental health or occupational safety. What we want to see is the sustainability of our American farmer.
Dr. Pate said national statistics indicate farming is among the most dangerous jobs in America. Farmers regularly work with large vehicles and potentially dangerous equipment.
If you think about it, an injury or death to the farm may put them over the breaking edge, and we want to be able to see them clear the economics that they need to sustain their operations. So we see it as a way to help them do their business. We don't see it as a way to be intrusive, and I think that what we need to do is be able to communicate that and be a promoter for agriculture and be a champion for the farmer.
Dr. Pate, part of USU's Applied Sciences, Technology, and Education Department, came to USU in 2010. He later moved on to Penn State, returning 3 years ago to lead USU's Agricultural Systems Technology degree program. And the Interior Department is preparing to offer oil and gas lease sales on large tracts of public land, despite concluding that burning fossil fuels from those parcels could carry huge costs and contribute to climate change. Burning oil, natural gas, and coal from federally owned lands accounts for about 20% of energy-related U.S. greenhouse gas emissions, but officials with the Biden administration's Bureau of Land Management say in newly released planning documents that they cannot accurately determine the climate impacts from upcoming oil and gas lease sales in western states. Officials propose delaying sales of some tracts in Wyoming and Montana over concerns drilling could harm wildlife. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Local talk. Afternoons at 4 with For the People.
At Palmer's Metal Mart, you get more than great steel at great prices. You get an amazing customer experience. For almost 30 years, people have chosen Metal Mart for the level of service that comes with the Metal Mart experience. But again, don't take our word for it.
Metal Mart was so professional and informative about an unusual project we had. They kept notes, so no matter whom I came in to talk to, we were all on the same page. I appreciated the professional yet friendly environment I encountered.
Another great customer said,
So I needed to pick up some tubing to repair a utility trailer, and I placed my order, but unfortunately I gave them the wrong specs. It was totally my fault, and instead of making me eat the cost, Metal Mart gave me the credit towards the right tubing. Great guys, and great customer service.
Come experience the great service and selection at Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store, with locations in Lehigh and Logan. Metal Mart's team is ready to serve. So if you need metal, get to Palmer's Metal Mart. See you soon.
Logan Dental Associates has been serving Cache Valley for over 20 years. They are excited to announce the addition of Dr. Brandon Preby, hygienist Emily Preby, and Dr. Curtis Taylor. Dr. Preby and Dr. Taylor will also continue to work at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Now allow for increased hours and advanced services at Logan Dental Associates in Logan. Call and make your appointment with Dr. Brandon Preby or Dr. Curtis Taylor at Logan Dental Associates by calling 435-787-8207.
Advanced Heating and AC is honored to be named gold medalist for the best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They were named silver medalist for place to work and remodeler contractor. They thank you for your votes of confidence in their company. You have many choices when it comes to your home's heating and air conditioning system. Make sure you choose the gold medal winning company, Advanced Heating and AC. Call 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
Wow, Mike, you look terrific. How you liking the new job?
It's terrific, Meg. I've lost so much weight since working at Polylift, I need new pants.
How about we get you into something more comfortable?
Bet you my old bell bottoms will fit.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Get a job that'll make you fit. Polylift offers competitive wages and an active 9-to-5 that'll get your wife's attention. Visit poly-lift.com for more details or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, Hour 2 of today's show. It's Tuesday, November 2nd. Shifting gears here, thanks again to Lyle Hilliard for his time. If you'd like to see the Independent Commission's redistricting maps and report, it's all available at uirc.utah.gov. And now we can take a breath here. That was a lot of information in Hour 1. I'm so excited about this, though. Our guest in studio is Craig Petersen, joining us for this month's installment of the For the People Book Club. And we're going to be talking about Amazon. My first question, Craig, is it Bezos or Bezos?
Bezos.
Everyone gets it wrong, and I get it wrong half the time.
Bezos was a clown.
That's right.
Maybe Bezos is too.
I forgot about that. Oh, man. This guy is wealthy, and that's that gets a lot of attention. But Amazon did something different, right? I mean, it's undeniable.
They really did. You know, this book really touches every one of our lives. Amazon's become such a pervasive part of what we do on a day-to-day basis that it's kind of hard to escape it.
Yeah, it's it's impossible in ways to deny the influence. Even, I know people who have made a conscious decision to decrease or even eliminate their Amazon use for this or that reason, and respect to them for that. But I think for most people, it's convenience, it's availability. They've even, I believe, raised the bar in a way that has impacted local retail positively. They've made them kind of step up the game and also remind people of what's different about a brick and mortar local shop, and that's a good thing. But this book is, as I understand it, just reading the blurbs and things like that, this book that you're going to talk about today touches on the broader scale of Amazon.
In fact, the author is Brad Stone. Actually wrote another book on the history of Uber and Airbnb, which is, I just happened to read that years ago. It's a wonderful book.
Also fascinating.
But this one, he wrote another book about 8 years ago called The Everything Store. And so this book is kind of an update of the other book. And so the other book talked more about the origins of Amazon. This one talks more about the recent strategies, and you see Amazon kind of in its full flower.
That's interesting to me because, we were discussing just before it started. There's a lot of talk of Facebook having a difficult time managing.
Or Meta, as it now is called.
Meta, yeah, they've changed their name to try and rebrand. And Google had to do the same thing a while ago, although it didn't stick. They tried to become Alphabet, and everyone was like, "No, you're Google." Yeah. These companies that oftentimes it's very obvious in Facebook's case right now, they became something they weren't prepared to become, and they're struggling to manage it. They've created a monster that is either going to eat them or be tamed. Amazon didn't have that problem, arguably at least. I mean, some might say, but I get the sense Amazon knew what they were doing.
I think they did. They're selling product. And the implications of communications and interaction and propaganda and misinformation that are associated with Facebook, you just don't have those kind of issues with Amazon.
Sure.
Yeah. Let me, if it's okay, Jason, I want to do just a little bit of history, because the history of Amazon is absolutely fascinating, and the history of Jeff Bezos is maybe even more interesting. Jeff Bezos was born to a mother who, she was 17. His dad was 19, and his dad was Ted Jorgensen, and they were married for a couple of years, and then they got divorced, and the mother married another guy. His name was Mike Bezos. And Mike Bezos was a Cuban immigrant who came to the United States in his teens, didn't speak a word of English, ended up going to school, getting an engineer's degree, and ended up working for Exxon. But what's kind of and the interesting part about that too is that he adopted Jeff Bezos when he was 4, so he legally is Jeff Bezos. But what's kind of interesting about the story is his original father. His original father left and ended up in Arizona, owned a bike shop there. And during almost his entire life, he had no idea that he was the father of the Jeff Bezos. And then, and he actually died in 2015, so he died a few years ago. But the author of this book actually figured out who he was, went to see him, and it was the author of this book that first told him that his son was Jeff Bezos.
Really?
And Bezos clearly must have known who he was and where he was, because if the author could have found him, Bezos certainly could. But Bezos made no effort ever to contact his biological father.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is, and you'd imagine, discovering you're related to Mr. Amazon at that point in his career, you'd maybe have a lot of interest in reconnecting. Yeah. What's this man? What's Bezos worth now? I don't remember. It's in the billions.
$200 billion.
$200 billion.
He and Elon Musk kind of go back and forth to being the richest person in the world. Right now, Musk is ahead of him.
That is, and I know this angers people when I say it. I've always thought they're different in one key way, in that I sort of feel like Musk stumbled into it, whereas Bezos, he created this. He fought for this.
Although
I think that makes him a bit unique.
I read a biography on Musk, and I'm not sure I agree with that he stumbled into it. He had a pretty clear vision, and he had a number of clear visions. In fact, he started PayPal.
Sure.
That was his original business. He started a number of other things. Bezos, just to kind of go along with a little bit of the history, Bezos...
Let me rephrase that. Musk got really lucky. How about that? Whereas Bezos sat out to change everything.
Yeah, although Bezos at one point said, my life is a series of mistakes. And he identifies the number of mistakes that he made along the way. For example, back in about 2010, he came out with a product called the Fire Phone that was supposed to replace the iPhone. Abysmal failure, absolutely abysmal failure.
About that.
So in fact, they had a deal with Toys R Us that went bad. They had a deal with a number of other firms that went bad. So they've had a lot of stumbles along the way.
Man, they scrubbed that from the history books. I'd completely forgotten about that.
But it's kind of interesting. So he graduated from Princeton. So he was a smart guy. He was working as a very young VP at a New York hedge fund, and started to understand about the internet. And in 1994, he decided, I think there's some prospects here. And so he quit his job. He'd actually met his wife at the time in this firm. And so they packed up in the car. They didn't have any kids at the time, and drove all the way to Seattle. And the reason that he went to Seattle is because Microsoft was there. And started up this firm. And one of the interesting things about it is to help fund this, part of it, clearly he was in a high-paying job, so he had some money. But he actually got $250,000 from his parents. And what's kind of amazing about that is, remember, his dad was an immigrant. He became an engineer.
Sure.
But how in the world at that particular time, 25 years ago, his parents would have had $250,000?
Yeah.
And when he asked him for the money, he said, there's a 70% chance that you're never going to see a penny back from this. But they trusted him and invested. And so, as you indicated, they started out selling online books. Yeah. It's kind of a stereotypical story. They started out of their house. In fact, they started out of their garage.
Shipping from the garage.
From their garage. And they had their tables. They had bought old secondhand doors and sawhorses. And those are what they used for tables.
That is amazing.
And so they started out with the books. It was successful. They expanded into a bunch of other products. Initially, the company had a name, and he renamed it as Amazon. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Kind of the notion of Amazon creates this notion of vastness.
Sure.
And one of his fundamental mottos is get big quick. And as Bezos looked at things that they might go into, one of his criteria was it has to be scalable. Even though there might be a niche, there might be something that is profitable, you have to be able to scale it up to an enormous size, or else we're not interested in it. So scalability. And the other thing, the other reason he picked Amazon is because it started with an A. At the time, the search engines would have put them at the top. And so there was a very kind of practical reason for deciding the name would be Amazon.
Okay, makes sense.
You think about Amazon as being this incredible success, but about 2001, there was what they call the dot-com bust, and a huge number of dot-com companies went broke. And Amazon was on the verge of bankruptcy. In fact, a lot of analysts said, they're done. They can never make it. And Bezos back then made a kind of a critical decision. To that point, Amazon was basically a retailer. What they did is they would buy product and they'd resell it for a profit. What they did in about 2001 is they allowed third-party sellers. And so they said to somebody else, we don't have to own the product. We'll be the marketing agent for you. You'll sell the product, and we'll just take a commission. And that generated the revenues that allowed them to survive the dot-com bust.
Okay, that makes sense. That's fascinating, actually.
So today, just to kind of put this in context of what Amazon is today, they're the second largest employer in the United States after Walmart. Their stock value is $1.7 trillion.
Wow.
They make $500 billion in revenues a year. They're the largest online seller. They're the largest line streamer. Bezos, we indicated, is the second wealthiest person in the world. But what's kind of interesting, and I'll talk about this later on, his wife is, you go different places and you get different rankings. I saw in one place that his wife was the third wealthiest woman, his ex-wife, was the third wealthiest woman in the United States. And another place I saw that she was actually the wealthiest woman in the entire world.
Interesting.
And his parents, she's worth about $60 billion. His parents are probably worth $30 billion.
Wow.
And so even though there's a 30% chance this wasn't going to pan out, it worked out okay for them.
Worked out okay for the parents, definitely.
Really
The book is called Amazon Unbound, Jeff Bezos and the Invention of a Global Empire by Brad Stone. And no surprise here, it is available on Amazon. I've linked to that on our Facebook page. You're listening to the For the People Book Club with our good friend Craig Petersen here in studio, and we'll keep the conversation going right after this.
This is Dr. Red, chiropractic physician with Red River Health and Wellness. Are you suffering with fatigue, brain fog, headaches, intestinal issues, weight gain, and you haven't been able to find any answers?
I've constantly been fighting with my weight and thyroid issues for more than 25 years, and none of the doctors in 25 years have ever been able to explain to me what Hashimoto's is, what it means to me, and how to manage it.
Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
Today, my life is like the minute I get out of bed, I hit the ground running. I'm ready to go. I want to see what today is going to bring, what adventures I'm going to have without pain and with all the energy to do everything that I want to do.
Our goal is to teach you and educate you so you know how to manage your condition a lot more effectively and you know what to do and what not to do for the rest of your life. With our satisfaction guarantee, you have nothing to lose.
Call Red River at 855-55-RIVER to schedule an in-depth consultation absolutely free. All appointments can be done remotely by FaceTime, Skype, or phone.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. We all know buttons make our lives easier. But if you have sleep apnea and can't use CPAP, did you know there's a button that can help you go from this to this? It's called Inspire. It's a small device that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. If you struggle with CPAP, great sleep awaits at InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
Medicare is different for every individual, never a one-plan-fits-all. Jessup Insurance guides you through all the appropriate steps, plus is there for future questions and concerns. Call Jessup Insurance, 435-213-3200, or Google Jessup Insurance.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Joined in studio by our good friend Craig Petersen. Once a month he stops by for the For the People book club. And this month we're talking Amazon Unbound, Jeff Bezos and the Invention of a Global Empire by Brad Stone, his second book about Amazon. And it is available on Amazon. I've linked to that on our Facebook page just because that cracks me up to think about. We mentioned this already, but this book is broad. This book talks... you mentioned that in the introduction, it goes into a bit of the history of Amazon as originally just a bookseller. And then he starts to talk about where Amazon is now. Mm-hmm. The New York Times called this a masterful look at not only Amazon, but the potential future of online retail, which that's an intriguing blurb there. Did you get that sense as you read it? I
really did, yeah. And the book is also not just about Amazon. It's really, in a sense, in a very real sense, a biography of Jeff Bezos. You said, not surprisingly, it's on Amazon. In one sense, it is surprising because the book is very sharply critical of him in terms of his management style. Okay. In fact, in 2014, he was voted by a labor union as the world's worst boss.
That's not an award you want.
It's kind of funny. You look at people like Musk and Steve Jobs and so forth, and Bezos. I guess you have to be a jerk in order to pull something like this off.
It seems to be a pattern, at least.
Yeah, it really does. Let me ask you a question, Jason. I want you to think about the things that Amazon does. Because one of the things that really kind of struck me about this book is the breadth of areas that they have their fingers in. I was kind of surprised by how wide it is. So think of some of the things what are some of the things that come to you that Amazon does?
As far as, like items they sell? Or
No, in terms, not just items they sell. So that's one thing they do is they sell items on a website. That's what we think of Amazon doing.
Sure.
But that's just a tiny part of what they really do.
I know, two things one I know because I'm a nerd and the state actually taught me this, the state of Utah. Amazon runs a kind of a very highly technical behind the scenes data storage mechanism, I guess is a good way to describe it. Yeah. And that I'm aware of, and most people don't think about that when they think about Amazon. And then the second thing is the video content. They're getting into and expanding a bit on a lot of. They're making movies and TV shows now.
They just bought MGM.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really.
They also bought DC Comics.
Wow, that's
a little different. Yeah.
And those things seem so disparate to me. That the difference in, I mean, this is not a bookseller anymore, and to some extent, I almost feel like Amazon is no longer even a retailer, even though that's how most people interact with Amazon.
Yeah, they do so many different things. You mentioned the thing with the state. They provide cloud services. In fact, one of their most profitable services is basically they provide computer capacity and storage, and that's a huge part of their business.
Oh yeah,
a surprisingly big part of their business.
Yeah, most of the state of Utah's websites run in some way on an Amazon cloud service.
Yeah. And of course, they do streaming through Amazon, Amazon Prime, video, movies, books, ebooks, and so forth.
Oh, that's right. They have the Audible thing too for audiobooks.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was kind of interesting, they also actually produce product. For example, they produce the Echo, the digital assistants. They do Kindle e-readers. They actually make them, so they're actually manufacturers as well. One of the ones that I thought was most interesting that they just came out with right now is they have a product called Astro. It costs $1,000, and it's the first widely available home robot. And so Astro is about 18 inches high, and you can use it to take things from one room to another, to go in and check on your kids. Does all kinds of different things. It's just a little guy on wheels.
That's very cool.
But it literally is a home robot. Yeah.
I like that. This is, it's fun to think about where Amazon came from and where they're at. On the other side of the news, I'm curious, does the book get into where things are going, where maybe Bezos... I mean, obviously, Bezos is not going to oversee this forever, right?
In fact, he stepped down.
He's officially...
He stepped down. He's still chairman of the board, but he's no longer the CEO.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We're talking Amazon Unbound, Jeff Bezos and the Invention of a Global Empire, available in hardcover, published just this year by Brad Stone. And I've linked to that on our Facebook page. Our guest here in the studio again for the For the People Book Club, Craig Petersen. And we'll keep the conversation going right after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:32. The news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. The voter-created commission tasked with drawing political boundaries for Congress, legislature, and state school board finally presented its maps to the Utah State Legislature on Monday, but lawmakers are under no obligation to accept them, and the chair of the legislature's own redistricting committee suggested one of the maps may have been tainted with political bias. The Independent Redistricting Commission defended its maps as having gone through a rigorous test focused on keeping communities together and keeping politics out of it. Fox 13 reports retired Judge William Thorne, a member of the commission, said bipartisanship is possible. Fair maps are possible. The commission claimed its maps paid no attention to how elections would turn out. Every 10 years, the boundaries for who represents people in Congress, legislature, and the school board are redrawn based on updated U.S. Census population numbers. Voters in 2018 passed Proposition 4, which created the Independent Redistricting Commission to combat accusations of gerrymandering, where lines are drawn to favor one party over another. But the Utah State Legislature has the final say and could completely disregard the work of the commission. The Independent Commission submitted 12 maps in total, 3 each for Congress, Utah House of Representatives, Utah State Senate, and Utah State School Board boundaries. The Independent Commission's maps for Congress have been controversial. Last week, former Congressman Rob Bishop abruptly quit the commission, blasting their maps for being too metro-centric and not considering rural interests enough. House Speaker Brad Wilson, a Republican from Kaysville, has also criticized the commission's congressional maps. An officer discharged his firearm and struck a suspect while responding to a report of a weapons disturbance in Ogden. The incident began on the sidewalk near the 200 block of 26th Street Monday afternoon at around 4 p.m. Chief Eric Young from the Ogden Police Department said they received a call of an incident between a man and a woman. Callers told emergency dispatchers the man had a knife. Witnesses told KUTV the man was acting erratically. Young said officers rushed to the scene, with the first arriving within 2 minutes of the call to 911. While engaged in resolving the disturbance, an Ogden police officer discharged his firearm, striking the suspect. Young said officers fired 4 times, striking the suspect twice. The suspect was transported by ambulance to a local hospital. Young said the man was conscious, breathing, and alert. When he was loaded into the ambulance, his exact condition was unknown. And Idaho lawmakers are seeking technology companies to appraise federal land in real time to find out how much money lawmakers say the federal government should be paying the state in property taxes if the land were privately owned. The Commission on Federalism last month put out what it is called a request for information, asking companies to submit ideas by November 8th. Idaho is roughly 63% federal public land, but that land is not taxable by local governments. A federal program earlier this year sent states $530 million to make up for that lack of tax revenue. Idaho received $34.5 million, but some state lawmakers say Idaho should get more. KBNU News Time is 5:35.
Did you know a block dryer vent is a real fire hazard? According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, there are tens of thousands of dryer exhaust duct fires annually, leading to many injuries and death. You should have your dryer hose and the area around it cleaned once a year, and inspect the vent and hose for any blockages at least every 6 months. Don't wait for disaster to strike because your dryer vent is blocked. Give John Henson a call at the Duct Hunter. Call 770-4813 today.
Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
KBNU weather tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the mid-30s, partly cloudy then clearing tomorrow, mid-50s, partly cloudy around 60 on Thursday. It's been to 55. It's 53 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. Their experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof, guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. That's roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. With Medicare open enrollment in full swing, I want to help you confidently choose the Medicare plan that will best serve your needs. On Thursday, November 4th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I am hosting a telephone town hall with experts from Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. If you have any questions regarding Medicare, coverage plans, or individual concerns, please join us. The number to dial in, 833-305-1678, and all the details can be found on our website at blakemore.house.gov. Thank you. Paid for by official funds authorized by the U.S. House of Representatives.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Delta Vacations, with special discounts to Hawaii, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Europe. Then add to your discount your choice of up to $350 additional savings or up to 75,000 extra Delta Sky Miles. For details, contact your favorite Morris Columbus Travel office.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Our good friend Craig Petersen here in the studio this hour for this month's For the People Book Club. And we're talking about Amazon Unbound, Jeff Bezos and the Invention of a Global Empire. Published just this year, May of 2021. The second Amazon book by author Brad Stone, and it is available pretty much everywhere. And we covered a lot of ground. We did the early days of Amazon. We did some of what they're up to now that people don't realize, from cloud services to building things, manufacturing things. But this book, you said, is about him, about Bezos himself, more so, or Bezos himself. That's a hard sentence to say. Big takeaways? Is this? I mean, this is a person that everyone knows his name. He's a household name, but no one knows him.
Yeah,
no one's met him.
It's kind of interesting. He started out as a fairly introverted nerd, and over time, he became kind of a media personality. He started to build himself up, so he's kind of a lean, muscular guy right now.
Sure.
And so now he kind of revels in being in the public eye.
That's
one of the strategies that he's really invoked is Amazon tries to connect their customers to them more tightly, so they really are kind of inescapable. Are you by any chance? I remember Amazon Prime.
Yes.
So you pay $120 a year for that. And what do you get for being an Amazon Prime member?
The Prime Video and free shipping, but I think free shipping is why most people do it.
They're actually the biggest streamer in the world. I mean, they're bigger than Netflix. So, Prime Video is readers and things like that. They have 2 days free service.
Yeah.
In some areas, they've now gone to 1 day service. They even have some products where you can get them within 2 hours if they happen to be close enough to you.
Which, that's amazing, and then at the same time seems so irrational. Not on Amazon's part. They're obviously meeting a demand. But when did we become these people?
Yeah.
I have to have it in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's toilet paper, I don't think there's a justification.
One of the other things I think is kind of interesting. So there's the things that Amazon does, but Jeff Bezos also did a couple of things on his own. For once, he spent $250 million of his own money and just bought the Washington Post. And so he now owns that. In fact, it incurred the ire of Donald Trump when Trump was president because the Post was very critical, and Bezos was the owner. And so Trump frequently was very, very critical of Bezos.
Yeah.
But the other thing that he's done on his own, it's actually not part of Amazon, it's a separate company that he owns, is a company called Blue Horizon.
Oh, really?
Have you ever heard of Blue Horizon?
I have not, actually.
Blue Horizon was actually started, it's about 20 years old, but Bezos has always been interested in space, and he's also been interested in the notion that at some point we're going to outgrow this planet and that we have to be able to colonize. And so he's been interested in space travel and making space travel available to the general public. And so for the past 20 years, they've been developing capabilities on that. And they developed a rocket ship. It's a little like the one that Musk does, but it's called the New Shepard. And it's one of these rocket ships that goes up, and then the booster actually is recoverable. And Bezos, about 4 months ago, actually went into space. He and his brother went into space.
So now I do remember that story. I didn't realize that was his own company.
Yeah, it was his own company.
Put him in space.
And the definition of space is 63 miles. So it's not space in the sense that you're in orbit, but you're at least that's kind of an accepted criteria.
Still pretty high.
So he went up, and that was a newsworthy item. But about a month ago, I was absolutely fascinated because every single news media outlet covered their next sending of a rocket into space, and the reason is because they sent up Captain Kirk.
Yes.
William Shatner.
I thought that was great, actually. And I didn't know this. I guess it makes sense, but that was actually the first time he'd actually been in space. Shatner.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, somebody didn't take him before?
Well, I read the other day that there actually only been about 60 or 65 people who have ever been into space. So it's a fairly select number. Maybe it's a little bit more than that. But it was kind of interesting. So they convinced him to do this, and of course he was delighted to do it. But that was an incredibly astute marketing ploy, because they got free publicity on every news media probably in the developed world as Shatner went up. And the thing that I found most interesting as I watched it was not the fact that the rocket went up and came down, because the rocket came down, the capsule came down with parachutes into the desert, and that was okay. But the thing that I thought was really fascinating is watching the booster, because you see the booster come down and it's kind of tumbling and so forth, and all at once it straightens itself out, its legs come out, and it slows, and it very sedately comes and lands exactly within about 6 feet on a concrete pad.
That's so
so
amazing.
it's reusable for the next project.
Very cool technology to think about.
But this is his own company because he's interested. He's interested in colonization.
Makes sense. This is so. How, a lot of times the interaction most people have with names like Bezos and Musk and Thiel and all these, we talk about how wealthy they are, how just absolutely insanely wealthy they are, and whether or not that makes sense, to have that be possible. But then at the same time, you can't ignore the impact of Amazon. Not saying it justifies his wealth. I'm saying that you can't pretend this is another same old of something we've seen before. Amazon is a game changer. And as I understand it, that had some negative impact on his personal life, on Bezos' personal life. To some extent, did you get that sense from the book?
It did. I'm just thinking, though, as you were talking.
Obviously, he's not an unhappy person with that much money. But that it was not something he was prepared for.
Yeah. Just something else that kind of came to mind while you were talking. I was looking just before I came down at the list of the 15 wealthiest people in the world. His wife, incidentally, is number 13. His ex-wife is number 13. But all the ones above him, except for the Waltons, I think maybe there's one exception, are all associated with their Google, their Microsoft, their Tesla, their Amazon. So they're all people that are associated with internet services, which is kind of an indication of where our society has gone.
Sure. Unavoidable, right? This is not. People still talk about and think about this as the future, but it's now.
Yeah.
Right now, where everything is so from kids in school to your job, to even the services that a retiree is going to interact with frequently. It's all online. It's all cloud based now.
So with regard to his personal life, so he met his wife when he was working for this hedge fund. And she was an active participant in the business. She's actually a novelist. She's written a couple of books that have been fairly well received. Her name is Mackenzie Scott is her name now because that was her maiden name. But so in 2019, just out of the clear blue, he announced that he was getting a divorce. And that was big news. But what's kind of interesting about it is there was another woman involved, and her name was Lauren Schultz. And she was a television personality, really kind of a flashy-looking woman. His other wife, his first wife, was a fairly retiring person, didn't like to be too much involved in publicity. But increasingly, he'd be seen with this other woman, and there was all kinds of rumors about scandal. But then in sometime in 2019 or 2020, the National Enquirer, kind of the hallmark of great journalism, published a very detailed expose of his adulterous relationship with this new woman. They had emails and they had all kind of things like that, and it was very well publicized. But what's kind of interesting about it is what's behind it, because this Lauren Schultz had a brother, and he's been kind of a ne'er-do-well of sorts. But it turned out that he had made a deal. This is her own brother. He had made a deal with the National Enquirer to give all the dirt about her and Jeff Bezos to the Enquirer, and they paid him $200,000.
Wow.
It was the most that they had ever paid for that type of information. But it gets stranger than that, because
crazy.
After this comes out, his wife and Bezos want to figure where the leak is. And so his wife actually makes a deal, not his wife, but this is Lauren Schultz, actually makes a deal with her brother that she'll pay him $25,000 a month if he will investigate the source of the leaks. And he is the source of the leaks.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what a disappointment that must have been for him.
Apparently their relationship's deteriorated.
That is...
The other thing that's kind of interesting about this whole phase of his life, I think, is... So he divorced Mackenzie Scott, and incidentally, she remarried. She married a high school chemistry teacher, so that's kind of a come down, at least in terms of notoriety.
That's interesting.
But what's kind of interesting about that is I look at Bezos in comparison to Bill Gates. Now, he also split up with his wife, although that seems to be kind of just an amiable thing that they just kind of went different directions. There's no...
Sure.
But what's kind of interesting is Bill Gates and his wife signed the Giving Pledge. And the Giving Pledge was inaugurated by Warren Buffett, and it was that billionaires would pledge that during the course of their lives that they would give away at least half of their wealth. And the Gateses have done that. They've given away an incredible amount of wealth. In fact, I think you could make the argument, because a lot of it's gone to providing health care to people in third world countries. And I think you could make the argument that Bill and Melinda Gates have maybe saved more lives than any other people in history, just because of their making vaccinations and health care available.
Sure.
On the other hand, Jeff Bezos, until just very recently, had given away virtually nothing. And what makes that even worse is that his wife, who ended up with the $60 billion, he has never signed the Giving Pledge, but she did.
Oh,
and she actually gave away $6 billion last year. And again, until about the last year, he hadn't given away anything. Finally, and I think he was almost shamed into this, he's now committed this year that over the course of time, he'll give away $10 million to fight climate change.
Wow.
But until that point, his giving was absolutely minuscule.
That is interesting. And normally that's quickly spotted and critiqued.
Yeah, that's what I say. He may have been shamed into it, yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah. But his wife, once she got the money, she immediately gave away huge portions of it, and he didn't.
That is fascinating. The book, again, is Amazon Unbound by Brad Stone, the subtitle Jeff Bezos and the Invention of a Global Empire. We're discussing it here on the For the People Book Club with our friend Craig Petersen in studio, and we'll be back right after this.
NMLS 1817019.
LendRight Mortgage declares freedom from high rates and closing costs with the introduction of our Freedom Loan. What is a Freedom Loan? 1, you pay 0 closing costs. 2, you get a rate that's the same or lower than the rate other lenders charge you thousands in points and fees to get. The choice is clear. Pay thousands more than you should with another lender, or get the same or lower rate and have the Freedom Loan cover 100% of your closing costs. Act now. Freedom Loan APRs are as low as 1.92% for 8 to 15-year terms and 2.67% for 16 to 30-year terms. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com. Get a Freedom Loan and say no to high rates and closing costs. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
This is Jeff John, head golf professional at Logan River Golf Course. First off, I'd like to thank all those that voted for us as the #1 golf course in northern Utah. Secondly, I'd like to tell everybody about our fall season pass sale. Buy your season pass now. Use it for the rest of the 2021 season and all of the 2022 season. And thirdly, I'd like to mention our fall golf special. 18 holes of golf with a cart for $42, and then you can play as many holes after that as you can get in before nightfall. $42 for all you can play. Logan River Golf Course. Play fast, play fair, play well.
This is the Sean Hannity Show.
And when the Taliban was on the march, he could have just hit them with airstrikes, pushed them back, expedited the withdrawal while we had control of Kabul, gotten out every American, every Afghan ally, all of our military equipment. Well, we didn't know this would happen in 11 days. You should have known, because the Taliban was on the march since the month of March.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, wrapping up the show today with our friend Craig Petersen here in studio for the For the People Book Club. We're talking about Amazon Unbound, available on Amazon, of course, and a lot of other places, local bookstores included. But this is Jeff Bezos and the Invention of a Global Empire by Brad Stone. And Craig, you said this was more, in most of the book, more biography than an expose on Amazon. Is that a fair?
It's both.
It's both.
It's
okay.
Both. Yeah, it's really both. A lot of it has to do with their strategic decisions over time.
Okay.
And the controversies were involved. But along the way, it talks about Bezos' management skill, management style.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, reading this book, did you, I don't know how much of an Amazon user you are or were, did anything change? Did you walk away from this thinking, I'm going to use it a little less, a little more?
No, because I think for all the criticisms, I mean, it's an incredibly convenient, useful service that they provide. What I came away from the book with was not understanding how pervasive their reach is into so many parts of society.
Sure.
They even, in the beginning, they used Federal Express, United Parcel Service, and so forth to delivery. Now they have their own plane fleet. They have their own truck fleet.
Yeah.
They have independent contractors. And so they really have integrated vertically. So just how big they are and how intertwined they are into our society. Did you ever see read the book Nomadland? We talked a little bit about that one time.
Yeah, I did after your visit with us.
Yeah, did you read it?
I went and read that.
Yeah. Did you remember how that's connected to Amazon?
Yeah, and that actually shocked me.
Remember what the connection was?
It was, so Nomadland, I mean, this is a gross oversimplification. The story of these people living kind of a non-traditional underground life when it comes to work and how they make money, or if they make money, right?
Basically in trailers. I mean, they're nomads because they have no homes. They go from place to place.
And they would take these sort of like creative positions. Is that a good way to put it?
Sometimes
with Amazon, like not just part time, but even delivery by delivery and things like that.
Yeah.
And then they a lot of times get scammed.
Yeah.
But also for some of them, it was a nice way to make money.
Yeah. And particularly, a lot of them would do it at Christmas time because Amazon would have all these part-time hires. But what I remember about that, and I thought was interesting, was a lot of them talking about how they worked in the warehouses for the most part, and how incredibly hard the work was. That sometimes on a given day you'd walk 10 or 15 miles on hard cement, and that was one of the criticisms. Amazon has been criticized for its workplace conditions.
Lack of bathroom breaks.
Lack of bathroom breaks, exactly, and monitoring. The people are monitored, and if you don't make a certain standard in terms of productivity, then you're out the door. But one of the things that's kind of interesting about that, partially in response to that, is in the past what would happen is when a person got an order, somebody in the warehouse would have to go and get the order, bring it back to a spot, wrap it up, and take it out. Mm-hmm. What Amazon's done now is they've replaced most of the walking with robotics. And if you were to go into an Amazon warehouse now, what you'd see is robots, and the robots go and snatch the stuff and bring it back. And so the people pretty much just stand in one place. And so instead of walking 10 miles in a day, maybe you just stand doing a brain-numbing job for a whole day.
Makes sense. Yeah. Similar to the Merrill Library's retrieval system.
Yeah, a little
something
bit,
like that.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. Brad Stone has, the author himself has a pretty unique list of books as well that are worth checking out. A couple of them at least on Amazon. And this book was a huge bestseller. In fact, I'm reading here, this was one of the top sellers of the year in 2021. Amazon has caught our attention in various different ways. Does the book talk at all about the future, where this might go, where Bezos and others want it to go?
Not really very much, I don't think.
Okay.
It pretty much ends with where we are now, I think.
Right now.
It talks about some of their issues. They've had to face some of the controversies. They've gone through a whole set of hearings with Congress and threats of regulation. When I was at the university, one of my specialties was I taught antitrust law.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting, 20 years ago, Amazon wouldn't exist as it does today because the antitrust laws would have peeled it apart. But the whole philosophy has changed, and things that wouldn't have been permitted 20 years ago now go largely unnoticed.
It's fascinating stuff, and antitrust, this has to be fascinating for you, is you've got everyone from, this discussion, I mentioned this on the show just the other day, has, when talking about some of these tech giants, Senator Mike Lee and Senator Elizabeth Warren agreeing on not necessarily a proposed solution, but that Congress needs to start looking at these companies.
Issue. I mean, Facebook's a prime example. It's probably the only area where Congress has agreed in the last 6 years. Is that something has to be done about Facebook or Meta?
The rarest of things there anymore. Meta, yeah, as they're going to call themselves now. I don't know if that's going to stick. This book looks fascinating. Listeners, again, it's available anywhere. It's been out since May of 2021. Amazon Unbound, Jeff Bezos and the Invention of Global Empire. and also available in Kindle and audiobook versions, of course. And our guest, again, has been Craig Petersen for the People Book Club. Any teaser for next month? You have something planned yet, or a surprise?
I don't, actually.
Okay.
I really haven't thought about it.
I like the surprises.
Maybe a Christmas Carol.
That would work.
That won't be it.
Be well-timed. Thank you, as always, to your time. Pleasure to have you here in studio. Great conversation. The book, again, Amazon Unbound by Brad Stone, available everywhere. And Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
Your voice for news and talk is right here on your radio. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.